Kristen and I were talking today, and she was telling me about this volunteer experience she had when she was in Madagascar for 10 weeks last summer doing conservation research. And she told me this experience with a little bit of hesitation in her voice. She had ultimately come to the conclusion that she's thankful to have gone, but struggled to see the importance of the work she did. Hi, my name is Sarah, and I talk about sustainability here on this channel and slow living. If these are topics that interest you, go ahead and click that subscribe button now, especially if you watch my videos regularly. The more we create a community here, the more I'll be able to do deep dive videos like today's, which we'll be talking about voluntourism. So let's get into it, friends. Volunteer tourism, or voluntourism, in 2014 saw 1.6 million volunteer tourists were spending $2 billion each year, according to NPR. The basic premise is that people from wealthy industrialized countries, known as the Global North, go to the Global South, mostly, or developing countries, to spend 1 to 2 weeks volunteering their time at a nonprofit experience. The content of these experiences can really vary, and it can include projects such as sustainability, conservation research, and teaching English in different countries. But today we'll focus on two extremes of the spectrum: the mostly disavowed orphanage tourism and the generally socially accepted medical voluntourism. However, I'll let you in on the secret now. Almost all journalists and academics completely denounce all types of voluntourism. So let's get started with some general critiques. The first main critique is that voluntourists are coming in with insufficient knowledge of the culture in which they're volunteering. So Osam Mahmoud from The Guardian says volunteers come in with little or no understanding of the locals' history, culture, and way of life. There's usually very little pre-arrival or cultural information given to voluntourists before they arrive at their destination, and maybe the reason for this is the programs say that they encourage cultural understanding through homestays or local immersions once you're in the country. So the onus is really on the voluntourist to understand the culture either beforehand or while they're there. But without this historical knowledge base, volunteers have to rely on the nonprofits to really know if, one, they're doing good work, and two, if the community actually wants them there. However, the systemic issues that nonprofits who often deal in volunteerism deal with are not that simple. Take basic literacy. The go-to is to build schools, but who will fund these schools once the volunteers leave? Where will they get teachers? Who's going to ensure the maintenance of these schools? As Jacob Kushner put it in the New York Times, perhaps we ought to abandon the assumption that we, simply by being privileged enough to travel the world, are somehow qualified to ease the world's ills. Now let's get into the specific types of volunteerism I mentioned earlier. People love helping children, so the rise of orphanage tourism should shock no one. Basically, what volunteers do when they go into orphanages is simply spend time with the orphans and do simple administrative tasks such as washing dishes or cleaning spaces. However, there are several problems with this. According to UNICEF's official statement on the topic, orphanage tourism can actually place more children in orphanages. It's estimated that in Nepal, 85% of all children in orphanages have at least one living parent. Parents often feel that their children will be more well supported if they're living in an orphanage because of the government subsidies and the nonprofit international aid that children in orphanages get. UNICEF also states that orphanage tourism can fuel human trafficking, trap children in inappropriate environments, and harm their development. Children also often develop attachment issues as volunteers come in and out of their lives, promising to return and never doing so. For these reasons, I can confidently share the consensus that orphanage tourism is never the right thing to do. Thankfully, a lot of voluntourism or travel sites that used to promote this are actually realizing this, and IVHQ, as of March of 2019, will take all orphanage tourism opportunities down from their site. On the opposite end of the spectrum, medical volunteerism is still seen as something that's widely accepted, as it's matching professionals in the medical field with people who are most in need of medical attention. But according to the BMJ Medical Research Journal, medical students are actually performing procedures they're unqualified to do. The paper suggests the better system would be one in which students swap places with their counterparts in other countries, kind of like an exchange program. And without this training aspect of local people alongside medical professionals, it actually may be taking the knowledge and skills away from local workers, as a study showed that was done in Honduras. So all of this sounds like pretty rough news for voluntourism. So are there any potential benefits? Most articles and research thus far only focus on the benefits to the consumer, i.e. the voluntourists, and most of these accounts are anecdotal. A journalist said that his experience was the gateway to everything I do today and everything I will go on to do. I was alerted to a whole different world, one so different that it prompted greater evaluation. And while some of the articles I read said that people who volunteered in volunteerism experiences are more likely to donate to the charities once they return home, I couldn't find any studies to corroborate this claim. In the few research that actually addresses local impacts and local opinions on volunteerism, one of these studies took place in the Dominican Republic, and out of a 33 sample size of people interviewed, only 2 were actually local people. In Geoform, a researcher actually addresses this agency issue and asks, why aren't people who are impacted by these programs being asked their opinions? Alright, so you're armed with the facts, so I want you to take a second and pause this video and leave your opinion in the comment below. And the main reason for this is when you type out your opinion, you're less likely to be swayed by the groupthink or my opinions that will follow. So take a second, pause this video. Okay, done? You commented? Good, you can resume. Okay, so my opinion. In the past, I've really heavily considered doing a volunteerism trip. I've even done full budget analysis. I have a ton of things bookmarked, and every time I go to make the leap and book, I stop for a second. And I think this stems from, while I think that the intentions are good, good intentions aren't enough. Whether volunteers can really recognize this, there's a power dynamic that's unbalanced between the voluntourists and the communities they claim to be helping. And with this power dynamic, it's pretty much impossible to really achieve this cultural understanding, because volunteers are seeing themselves as the great helpers and the people that they're helping as the needy. Also, the focus on finding ourselves in other cultures is disingenuous. Other people's cultures are not our playground for self-development. So this is the point of the video where I tell you, I don't know. And I know more on this one, I think. I think I have a better sense, and I hope that you do too. Can volunteerism be changed and altered to the point where pre-arrival information and taking a look at our status and our privilege before we go can remedy the ills of volunteerism? I don't know. I encourage you to do more research on this if it's something that really interests you, and of course I'll link all my sources in the description below. But if you're really looking to live like a local when you travel and really get to know a culture and its quirks, I tentatively recommend the sites visit.org and eatwith.com. And I will be addressing this issue about authenticity and living like a local more in the next video in this series, so stay tuned for that. As always, click the like button if you liked this video, and comment down your opinion if you haven't already. And if you'd like to see more videos about sustainability and slow living, click the subscribe button and the notification bell to get notifications every single time I post. Thank you friends for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.